All the focus on the No Kings protests over the last week has drawn attention to the organizations fueling them. Now, a new report from Peter Schweizer and his Government Accountability Institute found nearly $300 million from billionaire-backed networks is being funneled into the protests' organizers.
Joining us now to discuss is Seamus Bruner, Director of Research at GAI and author of Control Oligarchs. Seamus, good to see you again. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure, John.
So look, with all the noise surrounding these No Kings protests, your team dug into the organizations conducting them. What did you find?
We found dozens of official organizers and partner organizations that are facilitating, enabling, running these No Kings protests. And by and large, they were mostly peaceful. The one in my town was actually quite lame. But across the country, there were some violent ones. Portland, always a hot spot. Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, the usual suspects. And what we found is that these are extremely well-funded, these organizations. I mean, we calculated over $200 million, really closer to $300 million in the last 5 years have gone into the partner organizations. So this is basically anything but grassroots.
Right, and this is part of a larger pattern when it comes to left-wing protests. You guys have tracked that, what you've been calling Riot Inc., which includes events like the No Kings protests. Unpack that for us. Who is behind this exactly?
The main person who keeps coming up is George Soros. And we thought, well, it's not just George Soros and his Open Society Institutes. I mean, he's a main financier of all kinds of left-wing projects, including the protest industrial complex. But there's also this Arabella network. They are a major financier of these protest movements and groups. There's also the Tides funding network, the Ford Foundation, Ford funding network. So we've looked at probably a dozen or so funding networks with more than $10 billion flowing through these accounts. But the main ones we'd put into our report were the Soros, Arabella, Tides, and a few other funding networks.
Now, as you noted, some of these did get a little violent, but we've had lots of protests over the years get very, very violent. Is there a sense that there's going to be some accountability for these institutions funding these protests?
That's my sense. I was at the White House last week talking with President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel. They all seem very locked in on this issue, wanting to get to the money, not just the boots on the ground and the people committing the violence, but who is financing this. I've spoke with some people at the Homeland Security investigations. They seem to be very interested in the follow the money aspect. So I think that they are working their way up.
Yeah, related to that, we've just seen the Trump administration label Antifa a terrorist organization. They appear at many of these events. How does that impact the sense that there's going to be some sort of accountability again for these organizations?
Yeah, the designation, I mean, I think it's one that a lot of Americans get sort of uneasy about because it can cut both ways. What I see is that it's a forcing function that really gets kind of lights a fire underneath the law enforcement agencies so that they can open up broader investigations. At the end of the day, the people who they arrest, whether they're domestic terrorists or not, are going to be charged with violent crimes. And so I don't think that they're going to be arresting anybody as a domestic terrorist who hasn't actually committed some sort of crime.
The Democrats countered this by claiming that Antifa is actually a myth. It's not actually an organization and thus a false label. What's your response to that?
Yes, I mean, it's preposterous to say that the Antifa isn't an organization just because it doesn't have like an LLC or a EIN or, you know, some sort of corporate entity. There's all kinds of groups that don't have corporate entities that can be investigated as organizations. But law enforcement has the tools to follow the money even in those ways that we don't.
Right, and we'll see what actions the Trump administration takes in the near future. Sure seems like, as you've said, they are highly focused on this issue. Seamus, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thanks, John.